Rudyard Kipling, Advice from an Abandoned Son. You've probably heard the classic poem, If, which contains profound life advice from a father to his son. But what if I told you that poem was not written by a man who had a solid, close relationship with his father, but rather by a man who was basically abandoned by his parents, who sent him to live his childhood in a foster home and a cruel boarding school in a country halfway around the world? The author of If, Rudyard Kipling, has a complex life story marked by both triumphs and struggles. He was born in Bombay, India in 1865 to John Lockwood Kipling, an artist and teacher, and Alice MacDonald Kipling, a writer. From an early age, Kipling was surrounded by books and storytelling, but his childhood was also marked by a sense of isolation and loneliness. When he was just 6 years old, Kipling and his younger sister Trix were taken by their parents from their beloved home in India to live with a foster family in England. The experience was deeply traumatic for Kipling, who struggled to adapt to a new culture and way of life. One of the most significant experiences of Kipling's childhood was his schooling at the United Services College at Westward Ho, North Devon. The school was known for its strict discipline and its emphasis on physical fitness and military training. Kipling was often bullied and mistreated by his fellow students, and he later wrote about the cruelty he experienced there in his novel Stalky & Co. In later years, Kipling would describe his time in England as a formative experience that shaped his outlook on life. He wrote about his feelings of loneliness and isolation in several of his works, including his famous poem, If. If is a poem that offers advice and wisdom to young people, urging them to be brave, honest, and true to themselves. The poem's central message is that life is difficult and unpredictable, but those who can maintain their courage and integrity will ultimately succeed. The poem begins with the lines, "If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too." These lines reflect Kipling's own struggles with isolation and rejection. As a child, he was constantly surrounded by people who doubted and belittled him, and he had to learn to trust in his own abilities and instincts. Despite the challenges he faced at school, Kipling was a bright and talented student. He excelled in his studies and developed a deep love of literature and storytelling. After leaving school, he began to pursue a career as a writer, publishing his first collection of poems, Departmental Ditties, in 1886. Kipling's writing would go on to make him one of the most famous and influential writers of his time. He wrote poetry, short stories, novels, and political essays, and his works were read and admired around the world. One of Kipling's most famous works is his collection of children's stories called The Jungle Book. The stories, which feature animal characters and explore themes of nature, civilization, and identity, have been beloved by generations of readers and movie watchers and have inspired numerous adaptations and spin-offs. In addition to his children's literature, Kipling also wrote extensively on political and social issues. He was a strong supporter of the British Empire and the values of duty, honor, and patriotism, and his works often celebrated the heroism of soldiers and adventurers. However, Kipling's views on race and imperialism were also controversial, and his works have been criticized for perpetuating racist and colonialist attitudes. Despite the controversy surrounding his work, Kipling remains one of the most important and influential writers of the 20th century. Despite his success as a writer, Kipling also experienced personal and professional challenges throughout his life. He suffered several personal tragedies, including the death of his daughter Josephine in 1899 and the loss of his son John in World War I. These losses left a deep impact on Kipling, and he wrote movingly about his grief and loss in several of his works. Kipling's career also went through ups and downs. He enjoyed great success in the early years of his writing career, but his popularity declined in the years leading up to World War I. He also faced criticism for his support of the war effort and his views on patriotism and nationalism. Despite these challenges, Kipling continued to write and publish new works throughout his life. He was awarded a Nobel Prize in Literature in 1907, and his legacy as a writer and thinker remains as strong as ever. Rudyard Kipling's life story is a testament to the power of creativity, resilience, and determination. His childhood experiences of loneliness and isolation helped shape his worldview and his writing, and his works continue to inspire and challenge readers around the world. From his famous children's stories to his novels and poetry, Kipling's legacy as a writer and thinker remains as strong as ever.